Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're looking at a truly fascinating development in the world of energy infrastructure. Imagine you're building a massive solar power plant, and suddenly a small, seemingly simple cybersecurity label on your equipment becomes the single biggest hurdle to actually getting your power onto the grid. We have to ask, is Japan's new cybersecurity label truly just about protecting the power grid, or is there a hidden layer of economic security at play?
So that is the core mystery we're diving into today. We're going to peel back the layers of public documents, technical architectures, and international standards to see exactly how a straightforward Internet of Things label became the center of a very complex international debate. Let's jump right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll quickly look at the JSTAR system itself, uncover a glaring technical contradiction, examine the transparency problem, explore the economic security angle, unpack this thing called the ratchet effect trap, and finally, review a much better architectural solution. All right, part one, the JSTAR system. What exactly is it?
So, take a look at this. This is the official JSTAR label. It's run by Japan's Information Technology Promotion Agency, or the IPA. And honestly, it started out as a pretty straightforward way to ensure just minimum cybersecurity hygiene for IoT devices. We're talking absolute basics here: no default passwords, basic access control, being able to actually update the firmware. At its baseline, level 1, it's designed as a simple self-declaration system just to raise the quality floor of supply chains. It sounds like a great initiative on paper, right?
But things took a turn. Take a look at this document from the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry. It highlights a massive shift. For solar power and battery storage, getting this JSTAR label is transforming from a voluntary badge of honor into a strict, mandatory requirement to connect to the power grid by April 2027. Basically, if your equipment doesn't have this label, you effectively cannot sell power to the grid. That literally changes the entire game.
Which brings us to part 2, the technical contradiction between point and boundary defense.
To really grasp the flaw here, we have to talk about a concept called the trust boundary. Global cybersecurity standards for industrial control, like the IEC 62443 standard, they don't obsess over isolated devices. Instead, they focus on protecting the boundary. That's the space between the wild open internet and your closed secure network. Think of it like building a massive secure perimeter fence around a whole facility rather than just putting a tiny padlock on every single desk drawer inside.
And right here is where we hit a massive contradiction. JSTAR for solar power actually relies on static point certification, meaning it demands that every single individual inverter or energy management device gets its own specific label. It essentially ignores that network boundary we just talked about. But here's the kicker. Under this exact same policy, wind power is totally allowed to use boundary defense, like firewalls, to meet the requirement. So why demand individual product labels for solar, but allow perimeter defenses for wind? From a pure engineering standpoint, it's just a glaring inconsistency.
Moving on to part 3, the transparency problem, and what we call the missing pillars. Look, any functioning administrative system relies on 3 basic pillars: predictability, transparency, and accountability. Now, JSTAR officially claims to be a self-declaration of conformity at level 1. Normally, in a self-declaration system, if you meet the published criteria, you're in. Easy. But our sources reveal that JSTAR actually utilizes a hidden, behind-the-scenes screening process before acceptance. The criteria for this screening are completely secret. Plus, if your application gets rejected, they don't even give you a reason. It essentially fails all 3 pillars of administrative law. And the real-world impact of this is huge. Look at this quote directly from the source material. Manufacturers cannot predict what they must satisfy to be accepted, and therefore cannot make investment decisions. I mean, think about it. If you're a business trying to enter a new market, a secret screening process with absolutely zero explanation for why you got rejected isn't just an administrative headache. It's a completely unpredictable, invisible wall blocking market access.
So why the secrecy? Let's look at part 4, economic security in disguise.
Now, we have to neutrally report what industry analyses are observing here. According to the sources, some Chinese battery makers are allegedly facing outright rejections. On top of that, major foreign power conversion system brands haven't been able to secure certifications under their own names. But interestingly, when domestic Japanese brands take those exact same foreign products and relabel them as their own original equipment, they somehow seem to magically bypass these hurdles. Now, these are unverified, but they are widely observed market shifts, and they're definitely sparking some serious geopolitical friction and raising big questions about market fairness. To really put this in perspective, let's contrast Japan's blended, kind of opaque approach with how the United States handles things. The U.S. system strictly separates its objectives. Technical standards, those are handled transparently by the FCC. If there is an actual economic security threat, it's handled explicitly through outright security bans, like the Commerce Department's entity list, where the reasons are legally documented and public. Japan's J-Star, on the other hand, seems to just mash technical certification together with unstated security screening into one single, highly opaque process. And what happens when you mix those two distinct things together? Welcome to Part 5, the ratchet effect trap. When you bake unstated political or security goals into what is supposed to be a purely technical standard, you create some severe structural degradation. First off, technical rationality gets completely distorted. Second, you literally can't publicly disclose why a device was rejected because the real reason is political, not technical. And third, you can no longer explain your alignment with global World Trade Organization standards. You have essentially compromised the entire integrity of your technical certification. And this creates a massive trap, beautifully captured in this quote from the source material. It's known as the ratchet effect. Think about it. Let's say diplomatic relations suddenly improve tomorrow and Japan decides to allow these foreign products to be certified. What does that actually mean? Well, it instantly admits that all of those past rejections were purely political and had nothing to do with technical safety. It creates a one-way valve. You literally can never relax the standard diplomatically without completely destroying the technical credibility of the whole system. Okay, so how do we fix this? Part 6, a better architecture and escaping the trap. The source material actually points to a concept called dynamic resilience and a framework known as Load Equivalent Autonomous Architecture, or LEAA. Basically, instead of obsessing over static product labels stamped on individual boxes, this architecture relies on physical network separation. It focuses on how the network actually behaves over time. It acknowledges that energy grids are highly dynamic systems that are constantly changing. They are not just static IT environments. And here are 3 very practical steps to actually get there. Number 1, adopt boundary assessments, like using secure firewalls for all grid types, including solar, exactly like international standards recommend. Number 2, implement continuous operational evaluation, because let's be real, security doesn't magically end the day a device leaves the factory. And number 3, create compliance paths for retroactive remediation. This allows operators to fix and upgrade systems that are already out there in the field using external protections. By doing this, policymakers can actually align with transparent global standards. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We've seen firsthand how a simple IoT label morphed into this incredibly complex knot of technical contradictions and unstated geopolitical aims. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. When we are building the future of our critical infrastructure, will we rely on transparent, globally recognized engineering standards, or will we maintain an unexplainable system that just blurs the lines between technical safety and geopolitical strategy? Seriously, can we really afford the difference? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.